We are witnessing today an act of political misdirection by the Democrats on this committee. I'm going to start with three propositions that are indisputably true and should be unassailable. Proposition number one, the question of abortion is a question that is hotly contested in this country. Reasonable people of good conscience and good morals can disagree on the question, and they do, in every state in the union. There are sharp, passionate, emotional, personal disagreements on this issue that people rightly care very deeply about. That's precisely why the U.S. Supreme Court in Dobbs said an issue like this that divides the American people should be decided by the American people. It should not be 9 unelected judges decreeing the rules for everyone to obey, but rather the voters should make those determinations. My Democrat colleagues are fond of beating their breast and saying we must defend democracy, except when the voters vote for things they dislike. As long as the voters cooperate and vote for a left-wing Democrat agenda, they like democracy in that instance. If they ever vote for anything to the contrary, few things horrify my Democrat colleagues more than actual democracy. What is the state of law in America right now? Each state determines what the rules are that shall govern abortion. And the rules that they adopt reflect the values and mores of those citizens. We would expect the people of Texas to adopt different rules than the people of California. That is perfectly okay, and that is the beauty of our federalist system that welcomes diversity. But here's the second proposition that is equally unassailable. The position of today's elected Democrats in Congress on abortion is wildly out of step with the American people. It is a radical proposition. Every Democrat in the Senate, every single one, has voted for legislation that would strike down every single common sense restriction on abortion adopted by every state in America. The position of the Democrats is they would strike down every law, they would legalize abortion up until the very moment of birth. They would legalize partial birth abortion. They would strike down every law providing for parental notification or parental consent. If your daughter gets a tattoo or a piercing, a mom or dad has a right to know about that, but the Democrats would strike down a law that entitles the parents to know before an abortion is given to their daughter. The position of the Democrats is not a mainstream position. Indeed, national polling shows roughly 9% of Americans agree with that position. 91% of Americans disagree with the position of every single elected Democrat in this body. And understand, I'm not ascribing that view to them. They have voted for legislation that would strike down those common sense restrictions. And that leads to the third proposition that is indisputable. IVF is fully protected in law. It should be fully protected in law, and it will remain 100% fully protected in law. Every Democrat knows that. Out of 100 senators in this body support IVF treatments. I strongly support IVF treatments. In fact, in the state of Texas, IVF treatments are protected in law, and in fact, since 1987, Texas has mandated IVF coverage for many group health insurance plans. The Democrats know this. There's a lot of focus on the Alabama Supreme Court decision. The Alabama Supreme Court decision was not a decision striking down IVF. In fact, it was a case brought by parents seeking IVF against a clinic that had negligently cared for the embryos. It was a decision in defense of preserving IVF. But a whole lot of partisan elected officials and a whole lot of partisans in the media immediately seized on that decision to say, aha, IVF will be struck down. Well, I will say the state of Alabama acted promptly. Bright red, ruby red Alabama acted promptly to say, no, IVF is protected. Right now, today, roughly 2% of live births are brought into the world through IVF. IVF is a wonderful gift that lets parents who want to welcome a son or daughter, a child to love, lets them welcome that child into the world. But understand why we're having a hearing on IVF, not because there is any threat to IVF, but because the Democrats cannot defend their position on abortion. They have not convened a hearing on whether the country should adopt the Democrat position and allow partial birth abortion in all 50 states. That is their position, but it's wildly unpopular. So for any mom or dad at home looking to have a child through IVF, understand IVF is 100% protected in law. It should be. It will be. I strongly support it, and so does every other member of this body.
Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you very much, Senator Durbin. I think I'm going to ask some experts questions here.